Hello, everybody. Welcome to Telli Talks, where we talk about life, growth, relationships, and all things in between. This episode is sponsored by Classic Cat and 8 Lab. I have a very special guest with me today. He is a lawyer and small business commissioner for the city of LA, Charles Lew.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
Cheers. What did you get?
I got Macallan 18.
Oh, nice.
It's the first scotch I ever had when I was 5 years old.
5?
5.
What?
Well, I grew up in Scotland. You gotta drink. Yeah.
You have to.
Hogmanay.
Wow.
Hogmanay when I was 5, mixed with lemonade.
Wow.
But not lemonade the way you think lemonade. Lemonade in Scotland's like 7-Up.
Oh, okay.
So it's almost like a sweet soda whiskey.
Oh, nice. So when you tried it for the first time at 5 years old, what did you think? Did you like cough? Like, what's it? Did it put hair on your chest?
Well, I remember it being sweet because of the lemonade.
Mm-hmm.
So it almost just tasted like a smoky kind of sweet drink. But I remember not really understanding why the adults were so fascinated by it.
Did you think it was liquor, or do you know it was liquor?
Oh, you knew. Because my grandpa said, give him a wee dram. So give him a wee sip of whiskey. And my mom was appalled, of course, because I was 5. And he poured a thimble into a cup and then 7-Up on top of it. And I tried it. Yeah. And
so when you tried it, you were like, I love this stuff, or I'm like, what is this stuff?
Well, I liked it, which is probably scary for a 5-year-old.
Yeah.
And then I never forgot that the first scotch I ever had was Macallan, which was cool because now I do a lot of work with Macallan.
Oh,
so
that's amazing.
Kind of the story all came around 35, 40 years later.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So, okay, for the people that don't know your journey, because I feel like we have so much to talk about, how did you get to where you are today?
A series of fortuitous events.
Oh, man.
Oddly fortuitous.
Okay, so what were those events that led to your journey?
Oddly fortuitous. So I grew up in Scotland. I moved. Essentially, we lived in Scotland. I was raised there from very, very young till just before I turned 13.
I can hear your accent now.
It's kind of diluted, but if I have a couple drinks, it'll get less diluted. Moved to Florida. Went to Florida high school and college at Florida State, and then came to Los Angeles just for law school. And then really came out here with the anticipation or the understanding that I would be here for a short period of time, law school and then maybe post-law school for a year or two. But Los Angeles has a way of just embroiling you and enmeshing you in its society and its culture, and it just sucks you in and doesn't let you leave.
110%.
Right?
I came when I was 20 from
So you've been here
Japan.
5 years.
No, I'll take it. I'll take 25. I'll take it. But
you look so good in person.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
A lot of
so
people
much.
don't look as good in person, obviously.
And you too.
Thank you.
You too.
But your skin's so good.
Yours is too. Thank you so much. I came from Japan, and I came back actually. I was living. My dad was in the military, and then my ex-husband was in the military. So
What branch?
Navy.
Both of them?
Both were in the Navy. Yeah, so they were both in the Navy.
Did that weigh in to get married the first time?
I'm sorry?
Did that weigh in to get married? Were you like, he's got the
you
same
know
profession?
what? He actually worked for my dad, and my dad was like, don't marry him. And, and I was like, just, no, he's a, high school sweetheart. You kind of just get into like wanting to be your own person and not listen to your parents. So that's what I did, and I should have listened to my parents. Should have listened to your parents, kids. So, that's what happened. And, he said not to, and I did. And,
How long were you married?
I was married for 4 years, I think, with him. I got married when I was 18, and then when my son was 2, I had my son at 20. So, 4 years. 4 years.
Wow. And then both in the Navy. Like what?
My dad. Yeah, my dad was in the Navy. He was IT, and my ex-husband was an engineer.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
So I was while I was in school. I was in nursing school. while I was pregnant with my son, so I was taking classes online, and he was gone out to sea. So I was pretty much like a single mom.
Wow, and going to nursing school.
And going to school.
Wow.
So it was a crazy.
So you're a nurse.
I was a nurse.
You were,
yeah.
but you're always a nurse.
You're always a nurse. But
Yeah.
it's like I haven't practiced. The last thing I did was in Jersey. I was working at a Schedule I trauma center.
Wow.
In Jersey City. So it was
Wow.
crazy. I mean, like I was in the emergency room.
Wow.
So we were going through like, PCP, stab wounds, gunshot wounds.
So you saw it.
I saw it all. I was working 7 p.m. to 7 a.m.
Wow.
every other holiday, every other weekend. And as I was nursing, I met Deontay like at the airport. So I was like, okay, how are we going to have this long distance relationship if I'm working these, like 4 days a week and I'm working 12-hour shifts? So I'm like, all right, I got to give up nursing or I got to give up this relationship.
Wow.
So what are we going to do? And he's like, okay, well, when are you going to move over here? So
That was it?
Yeah, that was it.
My mom was a nurse and she retired after 50 years.
Oh, wow.
50 years as a nurse.
Wow.
And she wouldn't have retired. She just got, knock on wood, she's extraordinarily healthy, but she just got too old for the rigors and the kind of the laborious nature of nursing. But she would never have retired.
I feel like it's in you. Like I always tell
think
people
so.
my reason why is to nurture. Like it's just to nurture and help and like give back. Now I'm doing it in a charity standpoint instead of in a nursing standpoint, but I still feel that like itch of wanting to help.
Yeah, be an advocate.
Yes.
So you're a patient advocate and now you're a philanthropic advocate and you're a people advocate.
Yes. I love it. And I just want to like help in whatever way, even if it's the podcast.
Yeah.
Like even, like for people that want to become a lawyer, like how did you get into law and what made you who you are today with, being a lawyer to all the stars?
Yeah. So law is interesting. I never really set out to be a lawyer. My father kind of said, and my mom was a lot more liberal. She kind of said, go to college and then go to grad school. And then she used to always say the same thing. She'd say, get your education, and then if you want to go into the woods and carve little wooden animals, I don't care. But get your education. And so I went to undergrad, and then while I was preparing in undergrad for grad school, I just really had no idea. I had no real concept of what I wanted to do. But my older brother, who I'd always kind of looked up to, was a lawyer, or he was in law school. And I remember thinking, well, maybe it would be cool one day to have a law firm that was like Lew and Lew. Or for us to practice together, which never materialized because he's a much better lawyer than me probably. But no, he's got a very formal legal practice, so he practices.
Is he here too?
Oh yeah, Orange County.
Oh nice.
But he does construction defect litigation, so he's a very formal practice, and I have a very non-conventional practice.
Nice.
But I think that's how I ended up. I think that's probably how I ended up playing lawyer. But I think I always had a fascination for the law. I think there's, the idea of the practice of law and thinking about the checks and balances of the branches and the legal branch checking and balancing the executive branch and the legislative branch and just how laws are formed, and then now having an understanding of how the cities work and the counties work and the state works, and then how it's all interrelated to federal government. I think it's fascinating. And we really saw it during COVID.
Yes.
We really saw such discord between the federal governments and the states, and then even the states and the counties and the counties and the cities. So it was very interesting and very dynamic to see it and understand, or at least have a fractional understanding of what it all meant and how it worked.
How was that like, I guess, transition into law, like with the city and the states, and just the difference of the changes that were taking place when COVID happened?
It was one of the, I'd say for me in my 47 years, it was the most trying and problematic and difficult experience of my whole life. And it was difficult for a variety of reasons. It was difficult because I had a very I've had a very tough year. The second year of COVID, I had 3 of my very, very close friends commit suicide over a 6-month period, which was just horrendous and awful, and something I never contemplated, and it was very difficult to operate with that being something that was so emotional. And it was, and then trying to run a law firm, and then restaurants. We have a lot of restaurants, so the restaurants were obviously horribly impacted by COVID. So you're kind of trying to keep people employed, and you're trying to, as a small business commissioner, I was getting calls every single day and texts every single day, and some of the texts and calls were the individuals were so despondent and so crestfallen, and you have to kind of be there to give advice and say, hey, the city's going to do everything it can, and the county's doing everything, the federal government's allocating funds, and you just have to kind of make it through. It's kind of darkest before the dawn, but you're telling people that, and you don't believe it because your particular businesses are precariously, they're on the precipice of destruction. So you're trying to portray this confidence in the government and the cities and the science and follow the science, but really you just don't know yourself. And
you're right.
And then you're dealing with your own kind of political bias or your political opinion. So everybody's saying, get the vaccine, don't get the vaccine. The vaccine's great. The vaccine's existential crisis. So it was just a very tumultuous time, I think, for everybody.
Absolutely.
But it was particularly difficult, I think, just because to be in a position where you were supposed to give guidance to people, but really you were looking for guidance.
Absolutely.
I had no guidance. And I remember doing a panel on it, and someone saying, why do you think it's so difficult? And I remember saying, for all these other natural disasters, even contemplated disasters, man-made disasters, natural disasters, we had a guidebook, or we have a GPS, or we have a rule book to follow. So they say, in the event, there was a manual. There's instructions. In the event of an earthquake, do this. In the event of a nuclear weapon, you always looked at those and you thought they're ludicrous. A nuclear weapon, like crawl under your desk.
Yeah, and you would never think we would live. I never thought I would live through a pandemic. No. Like an epidemic, yes, but a pandemic where the entire world is shut down. Yeah. And when the pandemic happened, I was actually in Alabama. And in Alabama, we live on this island where there's 2 houses, and it's a mile apart, and we're on 7 acres, so it's very, very spread out. Wow. So it's just 2 houses, our house and this lady named Miss Lisa, and she's like 85 years old. And
on a literal island?
On an island. That's amazing. So it's just us 2. And the only thing that you take to get to our house is this bridge. The bridge corroded. And we were literally stuck at home for a long time, because who was going to fix the bridge? Right. Who was going to work? It was it was done. And at that time, I was creating masks for like frontline workers coming from like the medical field, because there was nothing, like my brother was working for UPS at the time. So I was like, how are you protecting yourself? Yeah. Like there's nothing to protect yourself. And then there was a shortage in masks. Yeah. So I was creating masks, but then I was like trying to get the fabrics in LA shipped to Alabama, and they could not cross the bridge. So I was like, something that would have taken me like 48 hours to make was weeks and weeks and weeks. And I was like, this is ridiculous. Like, what's going to happen? And nobody, like the entire world, China, you call China, you go wherever, you couldn't get anything. Yeah. And it was like, I can't even imagine for people that had small businesses and restaurants. And it's like,
horrible.
The income that you're used to getting, you're not getting anymore if you don't have a savings. No. And then what were you telling people when, like, again, you didn't have the guidance to like, or a blueprint,
with no clue, and again, we were being told certain things, and as the city, we were telling people certain things, and as small business commissioners, we were hoping or trying to instill some form of confidence into people. And then you're also kind of working as a liaison or an intermediary between the city and the county. And again, I think you have to assume that everybody's working with the health, safety, and general welfare of the population in mind. You have to start there. Because if you don't start there, then you become dejected.
Yes.
So you have to start there and you say, okay, assuming we're all working from an altruistic place, what are we doing? Like, why is the county health saying shut everything down, and the city's saying no, space the tables 6 feet apart, and then the county's coming in and saying no, the tables have to be 8 feet apart? So there's these discrepancies between municipalities and counties, and then the state is overriding everything, and then there's instructions coming from the federal government. So I think there was just complete chaos. There was chaos.
Yeah.
There was chaos and confusion, and again, like I said, I just remember looking at text messages and calls, and the text messages would come in so fast. You would answer them, and then you would get another one. I'm losing everything. I don't know what to do. I don't know where to go. I don't know who to turn to. I can't make payroll. I'm going to lose my lease. I'm personal guaranteed on 3 restaurants, 5 restaurants, 7 restaurants. So it was calamitous. By any definition.
Oh man, I couldn't even imagine. There was times I'm like complaining. Now I'm just thinking about me complaining about like, oh man, if I was in LA and I was literally like thinking about just being like what's going on in the LA house, what happened to construction, and just the little thoughts that I had that in my head were problems, like huge problems, were nothing in comparison to what people were going through, that their life depended on their business. And for me, COVID and Deontay was a time to like really genuinely spend time together with our family and teach our kids how to swim. And it was amazing for us because we had more time to like really reflect on our family as opposed to like our business and our work and just being apart from each other and focusing on our careers. And it was like time that we got to spend with our kids that we didn't normally get to spend. That was like we had no choice, like it was that's what it was, and we're stuck on this island and we can't go nowhere. Like as much things as we had to do, we were stuck. So mentally I was like, okay, when are they ever going to fix this bridge? Are we stuck here forever? Like, is this life? Like you just don't know what to think in that moment. And there was no one to go to ask that knew what was going to happen.
Because no one knew. And everybody that knew was contradicted by someone else who knew. So you're just, I just remember when they shut the city down saying 2 weeks and 2 weeks, and then we revisit. And then 2 years later, we're sitting there kind of all looking at each other thinking, what now? So I think there was some extraordinarily valuable lessons taken from it, at least for myself. And I think that ultimately, if nothing else, it should provide a roadmap moving forward, at least where people will say, and there's a lot of people that say it's not if, but when this happens again. And I think that's probably very prudent advice, that this will happen again. So hopefully, as a country and as a global community, we'll be better prepared this time, because it seems that there was some very prescient people for quite a long time saying this is coming. But maybe it was falling on not deaf ears, but naysayers who were saying it'll be okay, it won't be as bad as you think. But I think ultimately we probably could all collectively agree that it could have been really horribly much worse. That this and you as a nurse understand obviously infectious disease and whatever that number ultimately ended up at, the fatality, we know it was a fraction of what they were saying in the beginning and what it could have been. So
absolutely.
I think the big takeaway is what can we learn from it, and what can we do to be better prepared in the future for a similar or even a more catastrophic event.
Absolutely. As far as vaccine goes, what is your take on the vaccine as far as taking it, not taking it, the effects of it? What is your take on that?
I was horribly opposed to it. I did get the vaccine ultimately. I was horribly opposed to it, not because I was opposed to the idea of a vaccine. I wasn't necessarily one of the individuals that thought that there was some nefarious or duplicitous or perfidious concept behind it. And I think a lot of people were very untrusting of the government, justified or not. That wasn't my concern. My concern was just that it didn't seem to be as thoroughly thought out as it could have been. So,
Agreed.
And I think the bigger concern I had at the time was there seemed to be such a discrepancy when it came to the fatality and the degree of how easily it was transmitted, and the fatality, the ultimate fatality. I forget the technical name for it now, but nobody could really seem to agree. And I remember just thinking that if you're talking about a fatality rate that's less than the flu, then it seems odd that we would be forcing vaccines on people.
Right.
And again, of course, I understand that in the beginning they were saying, that the vaccine would reduce transmission and it would reduce the severity of COVID should you catch it. And then it seemed to kind of morph into, well, it won't reduce transmission, but it'll reduce the severity. And then
fatality.
It's a fatality.
Right.
Yeah. And then it kind of morphed again. And I think, where we ended up, I don't even really know. Yeah. And now statistics get skewed depending on your political or partisanship. So I hate going back to politics, but things,
that's what it is.
Usually end up back here. But depending on your political beliefs, all of these statistics can be skewed, and all these numerics can be skewed. So depending on who's presenting them and to who they're being presented, you end up with these dynamic shifts, where one person will say that the vaccine was not only not remarkably helpful, it's detrimental. And someone else will say that the vaccine saved hundreds of thousands of lives. And they're interpreting the same numerics and the same quantified numbers and the same empirical evidence, perhaps, and just coming to these dynamically
it's all about their
perception
of how they see and view things.
Yeah. But I always think the lesson, at least for me, and I think a takeaway is going to be kind of your liberties, and I think that's what I think needs to be examined moving forward is people's civil liberties were restricted or infringed upon, and I think there was probably overreaching when it comes to what was implemented in order, or what was restricted should you not get the vaccine. I mean, there was a point where non-vaccinated people, they couldn't even go to restaurants with
Yes.
They couldn't do anything.
Yes.
And that to me seemed
It was like they were treated like they had a disease that wasn't, I guess curable.
Yeah.
For you to even be able to go out and eat when there was nothing like you couldn't even go to the grocery store, you couldn't go to restaurants until you showed your vaccine, and you had to have both shots. So now they're doing the what is this second vaccine called?
Like the booster?
The booster, the booster.
Yeah.
So now they're doing boosters, and then you feel sick, and then it's same thing.
And third and fourth boosters.
Yes, it's insane.
And I think I'd hope that we have some really good takeaways from it, because there was, again, I think there was some treatment of individuals and people who declined to get the vaccine that was, and of course you again have to approach this and say we're all doing it for the right reason.
Right.
And the right reason was the citizenry's health, safety, and general welfare. So
for everyone,
for everybody. And I do believe that everybody did operate with that in mind, because I saw a lot of the elected officials and a lot of the civil servants, I mean, just tirelessly working to try to advance the vaccine and try to advance the Medicare and the medical care, and really working in just a fastidious manner to make sure that people were taken care of. And I'm sure you've heard from your nurse friends and from other people in the medical profession. I mean, it was
insane.
It was incredible. And what an incredible effort by the entire medical community and the first responders and the police and the sheriffs.
Any frontline worker, it was just the countless hours that they put. Even with my brother working at UPS, he was like, do not buy any packages. I'm like, that's the only way to shop. Like, we need to.
Because you couldn't touch them. I remember we couldn't touch plastic bags.
It was so bad. And he literally was working like 20-hour shifts every day, countlessly, no breaks. And they didn't have anything. They didn't have gloves. They didn't have masks. They didn't have anything to protect themselves. And that's when I was like, okay, I have to do something about this. And I did, like we gave them to the policemen, UPS, USPS, the hospitals, the clinics, the emergency, urgent care, like all the people that we can get masks for, because it just didn't make sense any other way but to help with what you can help with.
Yeah, it felt like a time warp, though.
Yes,
didn't it?
Yes.
Like the last 3 years
didn't feel real.
It didn't feel real.
It felt like we were in a video game. This is insane.
Yeah, I was reading something 2 weeks ago, and somebody had posted on one of the funny kind of conspiratorial sites that I ponder once in a while and go down that rabbit hole, and they were talking about the electron collider in Switzerland, and they were saying that we're in this odd time warp because we screwed up by these science experiments, and it's made time flow in a very odd way. But it's funny, I remember reading it and thinking, if you just looked at the last couple of years, you really felt like you were in a very odd time warp.
110%.
Like when people say it's 2023, I'm going, wait, what happened to 2020, 21, 22, 23?
Yes, and we lost. I genuinely felt like we lost those years in a sense of like outdoor experiences and just developing as a social community as a whole in the world. And we just pretty much had time to whoever was in our face, at that particular time. And that's all. Like, my brother, he obviously was here in LA working, and I was away from, which was like the first time I've been away from him since he lived with me. And I was like, are you okay? Like, are you alive? Like, what's going on over there? And how's the house? Like, and he's there by himself for years. And I'm just like, is everything okay? Is LA open now? Like, when is it going to open back up? And when can we get on flights? And just like the littlest things that you took for granted.
Everything, movie theaters.
Yes, everything. Restaurants. On a lighter note, he has an amazing restaurant called Caviar. My daughter loves. I love it as well too. How did you come up with the concept and the restaurant and the feel of Caviar?
I didn't.
You didn't?
No, I didn't. No, I can't take any credit for it.
I love that place.
So those were two very good friends of mine. It's a businessman and the chef, and I was just fortuitously in the right place at the right time. So
it's amazing.
I cannot take any credit whatsoever.
Oh, it's so good.
It's an incredible concept, and love being a part of it. And it's just elevated sushi, as you know, and but it's so much more. It's like a fusion, and it's
it's an experience.
It's an experience, which I think is very important right now. I think people are looking for everybody's palate's a little more sophisticated. Everybody's looking for a little more than just sitting down and eating the run-of-the-mill fare.
The presentation is immaculate.
It is.
The dry ice.
It's artistic.
Yes, it just looks so good.
I can't take any credit. I'm aesthetically not artistic.
It's amazing. So outside of Caviar, I know you have other restaurants. What are the other restaurants that I haven't been?
Yeah, we have Stout Burger, which we just opened in Ventura.
Oh, nice.
We have Palm Springs, Studio City, Hollywood, Santa Monica. We have one at USC Village. We have a brewery. We're opening 2 tap rooms for a brewery called Boomtown Brewery. We have a Scotch and cigar bar in downtown called The Firm, which we named The Firm as a kind of tongue-in-cheek opportunity. If someone says, "Where are you?" you say, "I'm at The Firm." So it's almost
perfect.
as if you're still working. So that's kind of a Macallan. It's kind of the entirety of the bar is, we obviously carry other brands, but there's a very, very rich, very expansive Macallan collection.
Oh, nice.
So that's exciting. And then we have a place called Morrison, which we have two of them, which I named after my mom.
Her name's Morrison?
Her last name's Morrison.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so we named, and everybody thought it was named after Jim Morrison. I said, well, we can say that also.
Yeah, there's a correlation there.
Yeah, but it's named after Mom. And we've got the big Scottish rampant lion is kind of the logo, so that's fun. And then we're opening a market right now called Third Wave Market. And Third Wave Market is in conjunction with Mental Health America Los Angeles.
Oh, I love that.
So it's the largest, oldest mental health organization in the country, I believe. Getting ready to celebrate its 100th year.
Oh, wow.
And I've been on the board of directors there for, I think this will be my 5th year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so that's
amazing.
That's an incredible experience working with some of the most caring and loving mental health practitioners really in the country.
No, mental health is essential, and there's people that don't believe it's a thing, and especially with the pandemic going on and just people's minds altering or diverting into stuff that they're not used to thinking of because of the things that we're going through. It's essential to have places to get help or ask for help and be able to access those places or those people for that.
Yeah, it's truly a problem. And I think we look at all the statistics and the data, and I have no formal training in mental health, but I have a keen interest in trying to understand why there seems to be this prodigious growth, this just incredible growth in mental illness. And we keep kind of looking back at social media, which is really terrifying. And it really just makes sense. And dangerous. Yeah. And it just makes sense. I mean, you know, again, reading the science behind it and kind of what happens to your mind when you're scrolling through these social media posts and how you feel and the range of emotions that you can go through just seeing, this person's in this country and this person just bought this car and here's this person's house. And you're kind of looking at all these pictures, and I always joke and I say, I could wake up in the morning, I could have the most incredible morning, and if you give me 5 minutes scrolling through my phone, I could decide that I'm horribly unsuccessful.
Yes.
Like grossly overweight, and I live in a horrible part of the country. Just because you're looking and you're seeing all of these people who are portraying things that are so grandiose and so beautiful, and nobody's really being truly honest on social media, because you always see these Instagram not Instagram posts of people, they're sitting and they're posed, and then it says not Instagram, and it looks very different. So
yes.
But
and filters and apps and tweaking and snatching and all of that stuff that you do.
Everybody's waist is tiny. Everybody's got perfect abs. And
it's not real.
Yeah.
We all tweak
hard.
and it's very, very hard. And it's almost like that, when you open up a magazine and you think that this person's body and this person's skin is just flawless, and they have imperfections. We're human. We all have imperfections, and just social media and not just social media, but just like anything that has some type of, I feel, outlet as human nature. Our nature is to, I feel like, lean towards more of perception in a negative sense. For example, the news, they never play anything positive. It's always like, this is going on in this country and this happened here and there was a robbery here. It's never like, oh, this person just opened up a business for mental health. It's never any of that.
Good news doesn't sell.
Never. And that's the thing, the selling factor of things. And that's what is pushed out. And mentally, we have to understand that this is what sells and this isn't solely the reality of life.
Yeah.
And I feel like as humans, not a lot of people put into that, and we feed into it. People want to see the fighting, people want to see the war,
they do.
But then they don't want to be a part of the change to make it better.
Right.
And that's where I feel like, as a human race, we have to just get better at just helping each other and being more positive and supporting one another, as opposed to battling with each other. But
I think we all feel, and this is something I've been thinking a lot about actually lately, is I think we all feel like we're in contests with
Yes.
each other. And I don't really know where that happens or why. And I don't know if that's something that's taught subconsciously, or that's something that's learned from your parents, or if that's something learned from TV. And certainly social media, again, I think
Yes.
is the primary
Big
culprit,
impact.
because you can't look at social media without comparing yourself to the people you're looking at.
Yes, of
and then you
course.
have to understand that everything that you're looking at the best possible representation of that singular individual's car, or
Right.
their teeth.
And they're not
or
going to
their
put
house.
out something that is going to make them look bad.
Yeah, no one's putting
Right.
the pic. I was thinking about it the other day. I was sitting in the sauna, and you're kind of sitting, and I spend all this time in the gym, and you're on all these supplements, and I'm sitting there thinking, like, you're kind of sitting like this in the sauna. I'm like, if I posted a picture like this, people would be like, God, you're grotesque. You're just massive. And
I'm sure they wouldn't.
But do you know what I mean? Like you look a
You're going to be judged
way, and
110% at all times.
And we're all vulnerable to it. That's the other
Yes.
thing that I think, it doesn't matter how confident you are, self-confident you are. It's like one, and you know this infinitely better than I do. You could be scrolling, you can see 100 positive comments. You're incredible. Thank you for all you do. Thank you for your charitable work. Thank you for representing us in this light and providing or shining a light on the subject. And then that one post, and it's not even grounded in any type of factual. There's no evidence. It's just this one hateful
don't know you.
post. They don't
Yes.
know. They don't know anything, and you fixate on that horrible one post.
Yes.
So you've got 100 positive ones, but you fixate on that one negative, and that's I think actually your man said something when I got to kind of sit and eavesdrop, and he said multiple times, actually, we need to get better at loving each other.
Yes. Have to.
And it's such a simple statement, but it was such a poignant statement, because there's so much to that statement. It's a very simple statement, and love each other and get better at it. But when you really think about it, it really permeates every single aspect of life and every single aspect of your interaction. From the individual that gives you the coffee in the morning. You can set that person's entire day off, right or wrong, just by your interaction,
The gesture, alone.
picking up a coffee. And it's not about the
Absolutely.
tip, it's about the respect that you show that person that's up at 5 a.m. at Starbucks, making sure when you walk in at 6 for your $7 latte, everything's perfect.
Right.
But I think it just goes back to just this, as he said very articulately, much better than I ever could, this kind of love for humanity and for your fellow human.
Absolutely.
And where does it start, and how do we?
How did it shift? How did it shift from like just being, against each other and not wanting to see people do better than you, where it's almost like, I want you to win, but as long as you're not winning at a better or higher level than I am, then
you can do well, just not better than me.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like, where did that happen when there's so much in the world where we could all win, and we could all be happy, and we can all just grow and strive and live in a better world.
Yeah.
And it's just unfortunate, and it's just so much negativity going on that you would think that more people would want to be more positive because of so much negativity.
How do you stay positive? Because you're in the limelight, and you're beautiful, and you've got your fame and your man's fame, and a lot of eyes on you, and a lot of hate and love. And how do you stay positive?
My kids, I just use my kids as motivation. And again, there's just like so much negativity in the world. Like, I genuinely feel like my purpose in this world is to nurture. So my happiness comes from like making other people happy. Like, if I see a smile on my man's face, I'm like, all right, I did my job today. If I see a smile on my kid's face, I did my job today. If I see smiles on the people that I donate to for charity, I did my job today. If I can, make someone smile on my podcast, or just give them some uplifting words if they're having a bad day, or they're, depressed about how their life changed, and I feel like I'm doing my job. So that's kind of like what brings my positivity, just making other people happy. I used to really strongly be like a people pleaser. Now I've kind of just shifted to being like, okay, I see it from this perspective, you might not see it from this perspective. So my approach on kind of how I go about things, if I'm not in agreement to, is different than what I used to just be like, okay, yes, you got it. Now it's kind of like, all right, that might not be the right thing. This is my perspective. What are your thoughts?
Yeah.
It's just a different approach now because I felt like I was just being taken advantage of a lot. And it just wasn't making me happy internally. So I was like, okay, now I can speak my mind and kind of just, you know, if someone doesn't know, like let's just say for example, Instagram, if someone doesn't know how I am and they're perceiving me based off of my pictures or what I post, and they're like, oh, you're this type of person and you're that type of person. And then when they have a conversation with me, they're like, oh, she actually knows what she's talking about and she's actually intelligent, or she's not just like a pretty girl with a pretty face. And it just is different when you actually let them know who you are instead of them assuming or you know, trying to figure out who they think you are. So it's more of like, now I can explain instead of having you know, and or having you think you know, and just go about things that way, and in a nice manner still, but more like, okay, this is my perspective, what do you think about that? Or if you don't agree, okay, but you know,
you have to be assertive, I think.
Yes.
And that's something that was very difficult for me, to the point where a friend of mine sent me this Jordan Peterson video, and it was called "Stop Being a People Pleaser."
Yes.
And I looked at it, and I was kind of text back, "Really? Is that really what you're sending?" And he said, "Yeah, you need to watch it." But actually, I watched it, and you know, obviously a hyper intelligent individual, and kind of articulates things a little different, maybe than I would, or well, actually much different than the majority of people, because he's so eloquent.
Right.
But he said certain things that really resonated, because you do find yourself, I think, if you have a certain personality type,
yes,
empath, and you sit
Absolutely.
and you say, let me figure out how to make everybody happy, and ultimately I think you actually can, but the finality or the conclusion to that is you're less happy. Because there's only so much of you. There's only 60 minutes in an hour, 1,440 minutes in a day. So you sit there and you say, if I have 1,440 minutes, right? Is my math right? I think so, yeah.
Yes.
If I have these minutes in the day, and the majority of them are spent placating other people or assuaging other people's concerns, and there's only this little tiny fraction left for me, and then I think you're a less productive version of Telli or Charles,
110%.
So ultimately, you're really doing a disservice to everybody,
yourself,
and even everybody, I think, because the best you is the best for the world.
Agreed.
I think.
I agree. And I was talking about this earlier, like, you know, who you are as a person is what I feel like God has made you out to be, and that's already going to happen the way that He wants it to happen, not so much the way that you want it to happen. Like, you can probably sprinkle your sauce in there a little bit, but it's already preordained, you know? So that's kind of where I feel like my perspective of things might not necessarily be what your perspective of them might be, but I'm going to tell you how I feel in the nicest possible way I could tell you, but I'll still give you my opinion on how I think about it, the situation.
Which always amazes me, because some people are so unapologetically blunt.
Oh, yeah.
And you appreciate it. If you think about
absolutely.
it, think about how many of your friends, or everybody has that one friend where they say, oh, he's kind of an asshole, but
he's a likable one. Yeah, but I love those people. But
you don't do it.
Yeah, but it's,
and I don't do it.
Yeah, but it's almost like, even if you're not a likable asshole, like, for example, like, I don't know anyone that would be like, oh, she's a likable asshole. They're going to be like, she's nice, but she doesn't play no games. Like, you know when it's like, she's nice and she goes about it in a manner of, she's going to tell you how she feels, but in the nicest way, where you can't say she's an asshole, but she's going to express herself anyway. So it's kind of like
smiling the whole time.
Pretty much. You know, I might be mad, but I'm like, all right, he's going to know that I'm mad, but he's not going to say I was a bitch about it.
Right. He's not going to feel it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Where you might feel it like, ooh, she's pissed, but like,
but
you can't be too, yeah.
But I always think about those people that can just say whatever they want, and I kind of do envy it.
Oh,
because I do
110%.
feel like the majority of my messages are softened, or they're their lesson to be more appropriate to the listener.
It's almost like you're kind of pampering them into like not agreeing with them or however, whatever.
Everything's
you're
very
explaining.
Diplomatic and political and lawyerly, you know, where you're saying, well, as much as I don't agree with you wholeheartedly, I would, you know.
Yeah, the approach is different. But I genuinely think the approach on how you go about any situation with people is an art.
Yeah.
Like there's not it's an art on how you talk to people, how they perceive what you say to them in whatever manner that is. And I feel like there's people that, like you said, are super duper blunt, and you're just like, wow, did he just really, or did she really just say that and not like even feel any type of emotion behind it, where you're like, oh, okay, I would never be able to say that or like do that. Yeah. But I commend them for it. Yeah, you know?
I'm very jealous of it.
Yeah, where it's like, damn, I wish I could do that. Where, you know, there's times where like Deontay, he's super nice, but it's like, you know, when he's not playing any games. Right. You know, where I'm the same way. I'm super nice, but you know I'm not playing games, but our approach is completely different. Very, very different. Very different. So it's like, we're black and white, he's tall, I'm small. We're completely different.
That's how it works.
So it's so crazy because like, I remember we had like a contract situation, or no, general contractor situation, and you know, he had added like a gate to something that we were like, what's this extra charge? And I was like, trust me, you'd rather deal with me on this matter than to deal with him, because when it gets to him, it's not going to be as pleasant as how I'm handling it. Sure. Like, you think I'm handling it in like a kind of a manner that, you know, you might be like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, because you don't think I'm going to check. Yeah. But
you're entirely
you would
less
rather, 110%. Yeah. 110%.
Do you have brothers and sisters?
I'm the eldest. So I'm the eldest of 5.
Oh, so then that's probably also part of being the eldest of 5. Mm-hmm. I would think.
Yes, yeah. You definitely have to be the responsible one. You have to be the one to make sure everything is okay and just take care. So it's me. My brother is 28. I have twin sisters that are 20. And then I have a brother that's 7, I believe.
Oh, wow.
Young, yeah. My dad started all over again.
Wow, so it's a range.
Yeah.
I had the same thing. My dad was prolific. He went through, I think, 4 or 5 marriages, depending on whether you count legal or illegal out of the country marriages. And there was 3 different families. And I always joked around. I remember at my graduation, someone walked across the stage with the same name. And I remember saying to him, is that another brother or sister I don't know about? Which he didn't think was funny at all.
Oh, I'm sure he didn't.
Yeah, he didn't appreciate that humor.
Oh, man.
So, but yeah, we had a very broad range. We went from, I think it was about 25 years range from the oldest to the youngest.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's like, and it's crazy because my daughter is 5, and then I have like a 7-year-old brother, so it's kind of like,
so we have
then he's like his uncle, or my daughter's uncle is 2 years older, and she's like, she calls him Kobe, you know, so it's funny. Like, you're not going to call him Uncle Kobe?
No, you can't.
Yeah, it's like, we play together, you know, it's not the same.
It's like an older figure.
Yeah, it's not the same. So that's a perfect, actually, transition and segue into a game that we play. We actually have different games this time. So I got new games.
I want the less competitive game.
Okay, Dirty Minds, I feel like is the dirtiest, cleanest game that I have on here. So it describes...
The dirtiest, cleanest game.
Yes, if that makes sense. I'm going to just play with you. Because it describes a word. Okay. And the word is not dirty, but the description is dirty, if that makes sense.
And then I have to guess it?
Yes.
Oh.
And I'll play with you as well, too.
Okay.
So I'll just pick a card and start. Okay. You're smart, so you got this. I believe in you.
That's a lot of pressure right there.
Okay. I can keep your post erect. You can use me to fill your big crack. After you get me hard, I can last forever. I'm much stronger with a rod shoved inside of me. You can lay some pipe inside of me. What am I?
I mean, I know it, but that is just absolutely awful. Concrete.
It's like dirty, but it's clean.
Yeah, it's like a riddle.
Yes, exactly.
Not
it's
like the Sphinx riddle. It's
It's on you now.
All right.
I'm not as good. I had to have extra clues last time.
Okay. Some people try to plunge into me without getting their head wet. Using long, smooth strokes while you're inside me will get you somewhere. You can use your long noodle in me. Coming in me too quickly could give you goosebumps. If I don't get pumped regularly, it's not healthy. What am I?
What? I am so lost. Okay, can you read the second clue again?
The second one, yeah. Using long, smooth strokes while you're inside me will get you somewhere. I'm going to give you the best tip. If I don't get pumped regularly, it's not healthy.
If I don't get pumped regularly, it's not healthy. I don't know why I'm thinking of a toilet, but it's not a toilet. Oh, what is it? If I don't get pumped regularly,
you know what throwing you? It's a plunge into me without getting their head wet. That's why you're thinking toilet.
Yeah.
And that's actually a little, the tip is a little, the hint is a little misleading.
Okay, you said the strongest clue was one more time again?
I think the best clue is if I don't get pumped regularly, it's not healthy.
If I don't get pumped regularly, what needs to get pumped regularly? What? Okay.
Pool.
A pool.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I would have never guessed it.
No.
I would have never guessed it. And I have a pool. That's crazy.
You know, you could almost been a fish tank.
Yeah, a fish tank too.
Almost. Although
I would have never guessed that
long,
one.
smooth strokes. But yeah, that one was
that one was hard.
Yeah, it was pretty hard.
Okay. Hopefully get the next
All
one.
right.
Okay. After your panties are wet, you really need me. If you've got too big a load, I might go down on you. Sometimes you have to pay to stick your dripping thing in me. After I'm done, you can pull out your wrinkled one. After you get me hot, I'll give you a thimble.
Dryer.
Yeah. You're so good at this.
Okay. Capone had a short one. The beaver had a long one. Bono doesn't use his. Mr. Potter's was hairy. John Silver's was long.
A hat?
I'll give you the better ones. Bono doesn't use his. Mr. Potter's was hairy.
Okay, Harry Potter was what was Harry's? Oh, what was Harry from Harry Potter? Mr. Potter's was Harry? A head? What was it?
First name.
Harry?
Yeah, Mr. Potter's was Harry. First name. Bono doesn't use his.
Hair?
First name. It's a first name.
Oh, it's a name. The word is a name?
No, the
clue
is a first name. Capone had a short one, Al.
Al. Oh,
yeah,
Al.
the beaver had a long one. Bono
What's the
doesn't
beaver?
use his. I can't remember.
Al
But I think
Capone.
Mr. Potter's was Harry.
Harry.
It's kind of was Harry, like first name.
Oh, his was Harry.
Yeah.
So what is the word?
It's just first name.
Oh, first name. Oh my gosh. I'm like, what? Whose first name? I'm over here like, oh my god, I feel so dumb. I'm like, whose first name?
John Silver's was long.
John Silver.
Long, yeah.
Oh, Long John Silver.
Silver's.
Oh,
You know, that was my first job.
Long John Silver.
Yeah.
I love. Whatever happened to
I
Long
don't know.
John
I
Silver?
think they're still in Florida. I mean, I just got back and I saw them. Yeah, that was my first restaurant experience.
I would have never got that one either.
No,
No, you would have for sure.
maybe I got
no.
lucky.
Okay, last
All right,
one.
last one.
All right. When I work on your hole, I start to come out my pants. I get paid to play with my rod. I usually come in a truck. I do a little poke to clean out your pipes. If there's too much hair in your hole, I need a longer tool.
Okay, go again.
When I work on your hole, I start to come out of my pants.
Okay.
I get paid to play with my rod. I usually come in a truck. I do a little poke to clean out your pipes. If there's too much hair in your hole, I need a longer tool.
Plumber?
Yes.
All right.
It was the what one was the good one for you?
The good one? I usually come in a truck.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was gonna say if there's too much hair in your hole, I need a longer tool. I wouldn't think, or I would think like a dream.
Yeah, I was actually thinking a snake. You know, the snake. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. That was a good
All right,
one.
you got this.
Okay.
We're getting
Pray
this
for me, guys.
Right,
Pray for me.
Let's go. If you get me toasted, I'll get harder for you. You can stick your hot salami in me. If you shoot too much sauce in me, I could trip all over your face. If I'm too thick, it takes 2 hands to stick me in. If I'm uncut, I may be too big for you to handle.
Okay, can you read them one more time?
If you get me toasted, I'll get harder for you. You can stick your hot salami in me.
Bread.
You get
Toast.
another guess because you're right there. If you shoot too much sauce in me, I could drip all over your face. If I'm too thick, it takes 2 hands to stick me in. If I'm uncut, I may be too big for you to handle.
A loaf of bread?
You're kind of there.
Oh my gosh. What can it be if it's not
If
bread?
it was Jeopardy, it would go to the judges. You're right there. Like I'm ready to give it to you.
Oh, French toast? Okay, one more time with the hints.
If you get me toasted, I'll get harder for you.
Okay.
You can stick your hot salami in me. If you shoot too much sauce in me, I could drip all over your face. If I'm too thick, it takes 2 hands to stick me in. If I'm uncut, I may be too big for
A
you
hot
to handle.
dog bun? A bun? What is it?
I'll give you a clue. Subway.
Some sandwich.
All right.
Oh my God, that was so hard. Jesus. I'm like, what can it be if it's not bread?
That was a tricky one.
That was hard.
Yeah.
Okay, I just suck at this game, clearly. Tell everyone where they can find you, what you have going on, all that good stuff.
Where you can find me. Instagram. I like LinkedIn because LinkedIn lets me kind of ramble incessantly about nothing. Instagram kind of cuts me short. Twitter I'm on, and I write for Forbes, and I write for
nice.
Entrepreneur. And I do a lot of speaking engagements specifically for metaverse and virtual reality and now artificial intelligence.
Amazing.
And I'll be teaching at Loyola Law School this fall.
Which he's on the board for as
Which
well,
I'm on
too.
the board for, yeah. And it's an incredible law school, obviously, Los Angeles, and very entrepreneurial and very diverse and very engaging and very exploratory, allowing me to teach metaverse and virtual reality and now artificial intelligence and prompt engineering. So we're really starting to dive into and explore artificial intelligence in the law and the relation and interrelation and how artificial intelligence will impact law as a whole and access to justice, which is very exciting. Because that's one of the primary goals for Loyola, and I think should be one of the primary goals for our country.
Yes.
Is to ensure equal access to justice for all of our citizenry.
Absolutely.
So that's very exciting that I get to do that because have you had a chance yet to play around with the Chat GPT and the OpenAI programs?
No, I haven't,
to.
but I have seen it be used.
It's
it's
incredible.
It's insane. Where I know Snapchat has one now where you can have like your own personal AI, but
Yeah.
the AI that we work with for the show, you can literally ask it a question and it pulls up everything about anything.
It's
and
amazing.
It's incredible.
So now imagine that for individuals who don't have the economic means by which to hire a lawyer, which is actually a very, very large percentage of the population. So I think approximately 80% of the population who needs a lawyer can't afford one. So now we're very, very close, optimistic,
amazing.
but imagine everybody having maybe not the same access to the legal field or the legal profession, but at least access to the legal profession, which is very exciting. So I think AI will catapult us so close and so quickly to, again, access to justice. So I'm very excited about that, and I'll be teaching that in the fall. And podcasts and with you.
Oh no, this was a pleasure and so insightful, and just like kind of picking your brain on the things that you do is amazing. And
I appreciate it.
Continue being you, because you're an amazing soul.
Thank you so much.
And make sure you guys follow him and tune into all the things that he has going on with his law firm, with his restaurants, with Loyola, with Forbes, Entrepreneur, the things that he writes, and all the good things about Charles Lew. And that is it for Telli Talks.
Thank you.